When you fully detach, you stop seeking validation and stop chasing. Your calm confidence becomes magnetic. Freedom replaces neediness. Boundaries earn respect, and emotional independence shows strength. Women notice steadiness, not desperation. Detachment doesn't push them away. It inspires genuine admiration, attracts mutual effort, and changes how they truly see you. Detachment is not about indifference or coldness. It's not about shutting people out or pretending you don't care. True detachment is the art of freeing yourself from emotional dependency, from the need to control outcomes, and from the constant urge to seek validation. When you practice this, something remarkable happens. You become magnetic. You see, when you are constantly chasing, constantly proving, constantly trying to earn love or respect, you lose a part of your power. That energy, that neediness is felt by others. People are drawn to confidence, to calmness, to the person who stands firm regardless of the circumstances. Detachment allows you to radiate that energy. When you stop clinging, you naturally begin to enjoy life on your own terms. You stop waiting for someone to fill a void that only you can fill. This self-sufficiency, this inner peace, is irresistibly attractive. It signals to others that you are complete on your own. And women in particular sense this. They are not looking for someone to cling to. They are looking for someone who is steady, someone who can hold themselves together even when the world around them is chaotic. A man who is detached in the right way doesn't lose his composure over small things, doesn't react out of fear, and doesn't demand constant attention. That calm, centered energy is magnetic. Detachment also teaches patience. When you are detached, you stop forcing situations or people to meet your expectations. You stop trying to manipulate feelings or outcomes. Instead, you let life flow and allow people to show their true intentions. This patience naturally attracts respect. Women notice it even if silently. They feel the difference between someone who is constantly anxious, needy, and reactive versus someone who is calm, confident, and measured. There is a subtle power in that restraint, a quiet strength that speaks louder than any words. Another aspect of this magnetism comes from self-respect. When you are detached, you stop tolerating disrespect or emotional instability. You stop compromising your peace for temporary approval or attention. You set boundaries and honor them consistently. And boundaries are magnetic. They signal to others that you value yourself enough not to settle for less than you deserve. Women respect a person who holds themselves with integrity, who doesn't bend or break for validation. Detachment is the foundation for that integrity. Detachment transforms how people perceive you. It shifts the focus from what you are seeking to who you are being. The confidence, calmness, and clarity that come from detachment are irresistible. People are naturally drawn to those who do not chase them, who do not depend on them for happiness, and who carry themselves with quiet assurance. Detachment is not about distance. It is about presence. Being fully present, yet unbound by need, creates a magnetic aura that no effort, charm, or persuasion can replicate. It is one of the most subtle and profound ways to inspire respect, admiration, and genuine attraction. Valuing yourself first is not selfishness. It is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, every moment of respect, and every experience of genuine love. When you fail to recognize your own worth, you unconsciously signal to the world that you are available for compromise, that your peace is negotiable, and that your happiness depends on someone else's approval. But when you place value on yourself, you create a standard that others naturally feel compelled to meet. Women, in particular, sense this immediately. They are drawn to a person who knows his own worth, who does not settle for less, and who refuses to be defined by someone else's acceptance or rejection. Valuing yourself begins with awareness. It begins with understanding that your time, energy, and emotions are not disposable. They are sacred. When you honor them, you no longer allow others to dictate your mood, your priorities, or your self-perception. You learn to say no without guilt and to step back from situations that do not align with your dignity. This self-respect is magnetic. Women are drawn to men who carry themselves with integrity, who demonstrate through actions that they are confident in their own identity, and who do not seek validation from constant approval. When you value yourself first, you stop making others responsible for your happiness. You stop clinging to people who may not prioritize your feelings or efforts. You stop begging for attention, affection, or recognition. Instead, you cultivate your own sense of joy and fulfillment. This independence is incredibly attractive. It shows that you are whole, that you are strong, and that you do not rely on someone else to complete you. Women notice this strength. They feel the difference between a man who is dependent on their approval and a man who walks through life with steady confidence. Valuing yourself also means protecting your energy. You become selective about who you allow into your life, the conversations you engage in, and the battles you choose to fight. This is not arrogance, it is wisdom. When a woman sees that you do not compromise your peace or waste your energy on unnecessary drama, she respects you more. She knows that your presence is not casual, that your efforts are intentional, and that your love, attention, and time are treasures, not guarantees. Valuing yourself first transforms how you are perceived. It shifts your energy from seeking approval to radiating confidence. It allows you to show up authentically without masks or pretenses and to create relationships based on mutual respect rather than neediness. Women are instinctively drawn to this authenticity. They are inspired by men who live with self-respect, who prioritize their own growth, and who understand that their value is not determined by someone else's recognition. By valuing yourself first, you set the tone for how others will treat you. You teach them without words that you are not a person to be taken for granted. You teach them that respect, admiration, and love must be earned. And when this lesson is clear, your presence becomes powerful, magnetic, and unforgettable. Freedom is one of the most magnetic qualities a person can possess, yet most people misunderstand it. They think freedom means detachment from responsibility or isolation from commitment. True freedom is deeper than that. It is the inner liberation to live life on your own terms, to honor your desires, to think independently, and to act without fear of judgment. When you embody this freedom, you naturally spark attraction. Women, consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to someone who is not bound by constant neediness, who does not cling, and who moves through life with confidence and ease. There is a subtle power in this independence that cannot be taught or faked. It must be felt. Freedom begins with the mind. When you stop overthinking every interaction, when you stop obsessing over what others think, and when you release the need to control outcomes, you begin to move with a lightness that is impossible to ignore. You are no longer trapped in a cycle of worry or insecurity. Instead, you are present, aware, and fully engaged with life. That energy is magnetic. Women notice it instantly because it communicates security, self-assurance, and emotional stability, all qualities that are deeply attractive. A man who is free in his thoughts, in his emotions, and in his choices becomes someone who does not chase, but instead inspires interest naturally. Freedom also comes from not being overly attached to approval or attention. When you stop seeking constant reassurance, when you stop adjusting yourself to meet others' expectations, you create an aura of authenticity. You are true to who you are, and that authenticity is captivating. Women can feel when someone is genuine, when they are comfortable in their own skin, and when they do not act out of fear or desperation. It is not arrogance. It is a quiet confidence that speaks louder than any words. When you live freely, without chains of expectation, you communicate that you are strong enough to stand alone, yet willing to share your life with those who truly appreciate you. Freedom also fosters respect. A woman senses when a man respects himself enough not to be limited by insecurity, jealousy, or fear of loss. This respect for oneself naturally inspires reciprocal respect. When you honor your freedom, you set boundaries, maintain your peace, and refuse to compromise your dignity for temporary attention. Women are drawn to that because it signals maturity, stability, and strength. It shows that your presence in their life is a choice, not a necessity, and that choice elevates your value in their eyes. Freedom sparks attraction because it communicates that your life is full and meaningful, independent of anyone else. It signals that you have your own passions, your own purpose, and your own happiness, and yet you are willing to share it with someone worthy. This balance of independence and openness is irresistible. Women are not drawn to desperation or need. They are drawn to presence, authenticity, and strength. Freedom is the energy that communicates all of this without a single word. When you embrace freedom fully, you become magnetic, desirable, and unforgettable simply because you are complete, unshakable, and alive on your own terms. Peace over possession is a principle that many misunderstand, but it holds immense power in how others perceive you, especially women. Most people confuse love or connection with control. They cling, they demand, they try to possess, believing that this proves their care or their value. But true strength and magnetism come from choosing peace instead of possession. When you prioritize peace, you free yourself from unnecessary tension, fear, and insecurity. You no longer feel the need to control every action, every word, or every feeling of the other person. This freedom, this calm assurance creates a presence that is impossible to ignore. Choosing peace over possession starts with self-awareness. It means recognizing that you cannot control another person's thoughts, feelings, or actions, and you shouldn't try. You cannot force respect, affection, or loyalty. Trying to possess someone emotionally or physically often pushes them away, even if unintentionally. Women sense desperation and neediness instantly. They feel the pressure, the insecurity, the underlying fear of loss. But when you choose peace, you radiate confidence. You communicate that you are secure, that your happiness does not depend on controlling someone else, and that you are capable of holding yourself together regardless of circumstances. This kind of energy is magnetic. Peace over possession also requires emotional maturity. It means letting go of fear, jealousy, and the need for constant reassurance. It means understanding that love and respect cannot be demanded. They are earned and freely given. When you stop clinging, you stop suffocating the other person, and in that space, genuine connection can grow. Women respect and are naturally drawn to men who maintain composure, who do not overreact, and who can handle uncertainty with grace. Peaceful energy is subtle but powerful. It signals strength, wisdom, and reliability, which are all traits that inspire admiration. Another layer of this principle is setting boundaries without aggression. Choosing peace does not mean passivity. It does not mean accepting disrespect or tolerating behavior that compromises your integrity. It means holding your ground firmly but calmly, refusing to let insecurity dictate your actions. When a woman sees a man who protects his peace without forcing or controlling, it commands respect. She understands that his love, attention, and presence are deliberate, not coerced. That awareness transforms how she perceives him. Prioritizing peace over possession shifts your energy from neediness to freedom, from control to authenticity. Women are instinctively attracted to energy that is calm, steady, and secure. When you stop clinging, you stop creating tension and pressure, and instead you create space for genuine admiration and mutual effort. Possession may temporarily capture attention, but peace captures the heart. By valuing calm, stability, and self-respect over control, you become someone whose presence is inspiring rather than demanding, magnetic rather than conditional. The quiet strength of peace over possession communicates everything without words, creating a deep, lasting impression that is impossible to ignore. Actions speak louder than words because words are cheap, but actions reveal truth. Anyone can make promises, express feelings, or say the right things at the right time, but consistently showing up, maintaining integrity, and following through on commitments is what truly defines character. Women in particular notice this instinctively. They feel the difference between someone who talks about love, respect, or loyalty, and someone who embodies these qualities through behavior. Words may inspire hope temporarily, but actions build trust, admiration, and genuine attraction that lasts. When a man chooses actions over words, he demonstrates reliability and emotional stability. He does not need to constantly reassure or explain himself because his behavior reflects his intentions. This consistency creates security, and security is magnetic. Women are drawn to men whose energy aligns with their words, who show respect through effort rather than empty promises, and who demonstrate love through presence, thoughtfulness, and accountability. Actions communicate priorities far more effectively than any speech. When you act with integrity, it signals that you value yourself and the people around you without needing to verbalize it constantly. Actions also reflect self-respect. A man who respects himself does not manipulate, plead, or perform for validation. Instead, he sets boundaries, honors his commitments, and treats his energy as valuable. Women sense this immediately. They notice when a man's actions are intentional rather than reactive, when his efforts are measured rather than desperate, and when his attention is genuine rather than performative. The subtleties of consistent behavior communicate far more than words ever could. A simple act of consideration, a consistent display of patience, or a steady presence during challenging moments conveys depth, strength, and authenticity that mere words cannot achieve. Moreover, prioritizing actions over words creates an aura of confidence and calm. When a man is less concerned with explaining or justifying himself and more focused on living with purpose, he becomes magnetic. This is not arrogance, it is self-assuredness. Women are drawn to men who embody what they say through their deeds because it shows that they are trustworthy, grounded, and capable of handling life's complexities without drama or pretense. A man who demonstrates respect, love, and stability in his actions invites admiration naturally without forcing it. Finally, actions create lasting impressions. Words can be forgotten, twisted, or misinterpreted, but consistent behavior leaves a deep, undeniable mark. Women remember the man who made them feel safe through actions, who respected their time and space, who showed up when it mattered, and who lived with integrity even when no one was watching. This silent communication of values, strength, and authenticity is far more powerful than any declaration. Actions speak volumes, and when aligned with intention and self-respect, they become the most magnetic form of communication, transforming how women perceive and value you. Boundaries are one of the most powerful yet misunderstood tools in creating respect and healthy relationships. Many people think boundaries are walls, barriers meant to push others away. But in reality, boundaries are a reflection of self-respect and clarity. When you set clear boundaries, you communicate to the world that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. You are not someone to be taken for granted, and you refuse to allow others to treat you as if your presence, attention, or affection is disposable. Women sense this immediately. When a man sets firm boundaries, he earns respect not through demands, but through the quiet strength of his self-assurance. Boundaries begin with self-awareness. You must first know your values, your limits, and your priorities. This clarity allows you to navigate relationships without losing yourself in the process. When you know what you will and will not tolerate, you project confidence and integrity. Women notice this because it signals maturity and emotional intelligence. It shows that you are not a person who bends under pressure or compromise, and that you treat yourself with the same respect you expect from others. Boundaries, in essence, are a silent declaration of worth, and people naturally respond to it with consideration and admiration. Setting boundaries is not about being rigid or harsh. It is about creating space for authenticity and healthy connection. When you protect your energy and enforce your limits calmly and consistently, you encourage others to rise to your standard rather than diminish it. Women are drawn to men who respect themselves enough to hold their ground without aggression. There is a quiet magnetism in a man who can say no without guilt, who can step back without fear, and who can maintain composure even when faced with challenges or disappointment. Boundaries create a sense of safety because they establish predictable patterns of behavior that are rooted in respect, not manipulation. Boundaries also teach mutual responsibility. When you enforce your limits, you create an environment where effort and respect must be reciprocal. Women respond to this naturally because it shifts the dynamic from chasing and dependence to conscious choice and genuine appreciation. They see that your presence, attention, and support are not given freely to anyone indiscriminately. They are earned through respect, understanding, and alignment with your values. This balance of assertiveness and openness transforms relationships, fostering admiration rather than obligation. Boundaries create respect because they communicate strength without hostility, clarity without judgment, and self-worth without arrogance. They allow you to interact with others from a place of abundance, not scarcity. Women are instinctively drawn to this energy because it signals emotional stability, reliability, and integrity. Boundaries are not just about keeping others out. They are about defining who you are, what you stand for, and the kind of respect you expect. By holding your boundaries with calm confidence, you naturally elevate how women perceive you, making your presence magnetic, your influence undeniable, and your relationships grounded in mutual respect and appreciation. Self-mastery is the cornerstone of true strength. It is the ability to govern your emotions, thoughts, and actions with intention, rather than reacting impulsively to external circumstances. Many people confuse strength with dominance, aggression, or control over others, but true strength is quiet, grounded, and self-contained. It is reflected in a person who can stay composed under pressure, make decisions without being driven by fear or neediness, and navigate life with clarity and purpose. Women in particular are drawn to men who exhibit this quality because self-mastery signals reliability, stability, and the ability to handle life's challenges with grace. Self-mastery begins with self-awareness. It requires looking inward and understanding your triggers, your desires, and your weaknesses without judgment. When you achieve this awareness, you gain the power to respond rather than react. You no longer allow frustration, insecurity, or external chaos to dictate your behavior. Women sense this control and composure intuitively. There is a subtle magnetism in a man who does not panic over small setbacks, who does not seek constant validation, and who does not let emotions rule his actions. That calm, measured energy communicates strength far more effectively than words or bravado ever could. Discipline is a key aspect of self-mastery. A man who masters himself prioritizes growth over instant gratification. He invests in his mind, body, and spirit, recognizing that his inner world shapes his outer reality. Women are naturally attracted to this energy because it shows dedication, purpose, and self-respect. They notice the difference between someone who drifts through life, reacting to circumstances, and someone who moves deliberately with focus and intention. Self-mastery is not about perfection. It is about consistency, accountability, and the ability to rise above impulses that diminish your integrity or peace. Another element of self-mastery is emotional intelligence. Strength is not displayed through dominance or control over others, but through understanding, patience, and empathy. A man who masters himself can communicate effectively, resolve conflicts without aggression, and maintain equilibrium even in difficult situations. This stability is magnetic because it creates trust and safety. Women are drawn to men who demonstrate emotional balance, who do not overreact to minor challenges, and who remain grounded regardless of the external chaos. Self-mastery reflects a depth of character that is rare and deeply admired. Self-mastery transforms how you are perceived. It is a silent signal that you are confident, secure, and capable. It shifts interactions from dependency and neediness to mutual respect and genuine connection. Women are inspired by men who live with self-discipline, emotional intelligence, and purposeful action. This inner strength becomes a beacon, drawing admiration and respect without the need for force or assertion. By mastering yourself, you demonstrate that true power is not about control over others. It is about control over yourself. And it is this self-governance, this unwavering composure, and this quiet confidence that changes the way women see you, making you magnetic, respected, and unforgettable. Detachment is often misunderstood as indifference, but true detachment is the conscious choice to release control over outcomes, emotions, and other people's actions while maintaining care and presence. It is the art of holding space without suffocating, of loving without clinging, and of being fully yourself without dependence on validation. When you practice detachment, you stop forcing connections, manipulating feelings, or seeking approval. Instead, you create a space where effort from the other person becomes genuine, intentional, and freely given. This is what makes detachment magnetic, especially in the eyes of women. When you let go of the need to control, you allow others to show their true intentions. Women can sense desperation, neediness, and fear of loss, and these energies often push them away. But when a man detaches, he communicates confidence and security without saying a word. He signals that he is complete on his own, that his happiness and self-worth are not contingent upon someone else's attention or affection. This subtle power encourages women to invest their energy authentically rather than out of obligation or guilt. Mutual effort arises naturally when it is a choice, not a demand, and detachment creates the environment for that choice to flourish. Detachment also fosters patience and clarity. When you stop chasing, you stop reacting impulsively to perceived slights or uncertainty. You learn to observe, to understand, and to respond with wisdom rather than fear. This calm, measured approach is magnetic because it creates trust. Women feel safe engaging with someone who does not panic over minor challenges, who does not push for affirmation, and who does not make their attention or affection conditional. Detachment allows a relationship to breathe, giving space for natural effort to emerge from both sides. Another important aspect of detachment is self-prioritization. When you focus on your growth, your passions, and your values rather than trying to control another person, you elevate your own energy. This is incredibly attractive because it signals that your presence is a choice, not a necessity. Women respond to this energy by contributing authentically, showing care and effort because they want to, not because they feel compelled. Mutual effort is born from respect, admiration, and alignment, not from coercion or manipulation. Detachment teaches that the strongest connections are built on freedom and intentionality, not on pressure or expectation. Detachment transforms relationships from one-sided struggles into balanced partnerships. It allows both individuals to contribute willingly, communicate openly, and invest meaningfully. Women respect and are drawn to men who practice detachment because it demonstrates emotional intelligence, maturity, and self-respect. It changes the dynamic from chasing and proving to choosing and receiving, from neediness and control to trust and authenticity. By detaching, you invite women to meet you where you are, to invest in the connection because they genuinely want to, and to create a partnership built on mutual effort and conscious choice. Detachment is not distance. It is a magnet that draws sincerity, respect, and devotion naturally, making your presence powerful, inspiring, and unforgettable. In the end, all these principles, detachment, self-value, freedom, peace, action, boundaries, self-mastery, and mutual effort, come together to shape not just how a woman sees you, but how you see yourself. When you stop chasing, stop compromising your peace, and stop seeking validation, you step into a space of power, confidence, and authenticity. Women naturally respect and are drawn to men who are complete on their own, who radiate calm, who act with integrity, and who invite connection without force. This is not about manipulation or strategy. It is about being fully yourself, holding your standards, and living with purpose. When you embody these qualities, you create relationships built on admiration, respect, and genuine effort. Ultimately, letting go of neediness and embracing detachment is not the absence of care. It is the presence of strength, and it transforms every interaction, every connection, and every perception into something magnetic, meaningful, and lasting.